When I lived in Japan, I kind of saw America as just like a big land of theme parks. My story coming to America started when I was 10. I remember my grandma saying we were going to visit my uncle. It was like we were staying the summer with Uncle Paul.
Atsuko's family came to the United States the way that most tourists do, on a temporary tourist visa, with stamped passports and filled out customs forms.
My mom, my grandma, and I flew from Tokyo to the States. I remember the plane ride being the longest ride I'd ever taken before. We went to amusement parks, we went to Universal Studios, but 2 months turned into 3 months, and then 3 months turned into 4 months. I got enrolled in elementary school, and then that year ended, and I got enrolled into the next year, and so I just continued being here. I didn't know why. I didn't even know the word immigration. I didn't know I was an immigrant. I didn't really know I was undocumented. I just knew that I didn't fit in, that I didn't belong.
Finding herself in a strange new country as a child, Atsuko tried to make the best of her situation.
In a lot of ways, I was like a normal American kid. I knew the same multiplication tables. I knew the capital to each state. I rode bicycles. I was a cheerleader. I was in a basketball league. Got really into ranch dressing. That's something we don't have in Japan. You know, boy, that would kill a Japanese person, that much dairy. But that was a huge discovery for me. You know, oh, you could dip anything into it. What? Chicken, burgers, pizza. You could just drink it. Some people just drink it.
Atsuko's story of airports and ranch dressing is not what most of us think of when we think of undocumented immigrants, but maybe it should be. Today, most undocumented immigrants enter the United States legally. They come with papers. They fly or drive in as tourists and overstay their visas.
I actually have never seen the border in person. I guess our crossing story is crossing the TSA and the baggage claim.
Mainstream media doesn't really share stories like Atsuko's. They tend to only talk about undocumented people who come from one part of the world.
It is rare for people to hear of East Asians being undocumented. I think most Americans don't realize that there are undocumented Japanese folks.
In the last 10 years, more people have moved from America to Mexico than have moved from Mexico to America. While it's true that undocumented folks are mostly Latin American, they also come from many other parts of the world.
It sounds like an oppression off. I know we're not the majority, but we are here.
There are Black undocumented folks from Africa and the Caribbean, white undocumented folks from Europe and Canada, undocumented Asian Americans from countries like India, China, or Korea. Undocumented immigrants get a lot of news time, but only as cardboard cutouts, two-dimensional cartoon characters that pundits can argue about.
I like being vocal about normalizing, the idea of undocumented Americans. It's important to know that it's real people existing in these stories. I was an American without papers.
The more we see undocumented folks for who they are, diverse, hardworking, ranch dressing obsessed, the more we'll see commonalities, how everyone's lives are intertwined.
I think personal stories are the revolution. It has to be personal stories, or else it's just like facts and faceless numbers.
We should be focusing on the ways that immigrants, documented or undocumented, contribute to their communities.
I finally was able to find my place in America. They say comedians come from very tragic situations, and I feel like the pathway was there for me to always have jokes. But that's me, trying to heal through humor.